cool thing that happened at all of this was Jimmy Waldo is on my album. He co-wrote a couple tracks with me, from Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, right.
And I don't know, do you know who Steve Rosen is?
I do not.
He is, if you go to YouTube, Steve Rosen used to interview, I think he worked for Guitar World magazine. He was the editor of that magazine, interviewed everybody, every guitar player from the beginning, to, you name it, Eddie, Billy Gibbons, Brian May, all of them. And what he said was during that period, I'll give you the cover if you play an album, if I ever make one. Okay, sure, Mike. They always say yes to get on the cover.
Right.
And he also wrote for Rolling Stone.
Okay.
So you go to YouTube and you can find Steve Rosen and his interviews with all these great guitar players. Well, Jimmy contacted me through my manager and said, hey, Steve's ready to do a record. We're going to call in the artillery. And I go, what does that mean? And I need you to write, I think there's 11 tracks on the album. We did 2 Blackthorn songs because Bob Kulick had just passed away.
Sure.
And they wanted me to re-sing the Graham Bonnet stuff. So I did that. But I wrote 9 vocal tracks with Steve and Waldo.
Okay.
And then they brought in the artillery, meaning Bumblefoot, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai,
wow,
Paul Gilbert, you name it. It's a cornucopia of the greats, which I'm in the room of royalty with guitar players that are playing on my songs.
Right.
And the band is called, it's a project band called the Highway Sentinels. It was going to be, now that name, I'll get to that. Highway Sentinels was in my head that if I could put together the perfect metal band, what would it be?
Right.
I need a name. So I had it in my head, Highway Sentinels. Well, during that time, guess who calls me? Herman Frank from Accept.
Okay, yeah.
Out of the blue, Herman Frank. Now, here's a guy that I played in the same band as he did.
Sure.
We've done festivals, and I said, I get to meet this Herman Frank guy finally. We would miss each other by minutes, and we never physically met.
Okay.
But we connected, because of this crazy octopus of music.
Right.
So he says to me, hey, we should do a project together, do a record together. And I said, Herman, that's a great idea.
Sure.
I got a band name. It's called Highway Sentinels. He goes, hate it. Let's get more metal. So we ended up coming up with Iron Allies.
Right.
And now we've got like 22 songs recorded. We're shopping labels right now, and everybody's going, yeah. And I said earlier, I don't want to be in a band.
Right.
But if I'm going to be in a band, it's with Herman Frank, Donnie Von Staven from Riot, and Francesco Giovino, who played on my solo album, Black Blues Utopia, on drums, which will actually, with these promoters, because they're all thinking, like you said, homogenized.
Mm-hmm.
If the more well-known faces you got on stage playing together, the more punters are going to come to the show.
Right.
So with our history, we can do Accept, we can do Iron Allies, we can do Riot, we can do all this stuff, right?
Right.
And the music we're writing together is killer. I mean, Herman Frank is another one like Andy. He's one of those guys that never got his due.